What's up, everybody? So, I don't know if you guys have realized this, but we are almost 8 years removed from the last 3D Mario title. To put things into context, in 1996 we got Mario 64, a long 6 years later we got Mario Sunshine, 5 years after that we got Galaxy, and even within that 5-year window we got Mario 64 DS. 3 years after Galaxy we got Galaxy 2, a year later we got 3D Land, 2 years beyond that we got Mario 3D World, and then 3 years after that, we got Super Mario Odyssey. Now, I don't think it's too far-fetched to say that most Nintendo fans are Mario fans. I'd wager 99.9% of Nintendo fans are Mario fans, to an extent. They may not all necessarily be 3D Mario fans, they may not even all necessarily be 2D Mario fans, but when you're a fan of Nintendo, realistically speaking, you're a fan to an extent of Mario, whether it's a main game or a spin-off. And the flagship representation of every console of Nintendo since the beginning of time from a AAA perspective is in some way a 3D Mario game. Either it's the most important or it's right up there. Many of us Nintendudes have anxiously been waiting for a 3D Mario game. Many of us figured that we were at least getting one with the launch of the Nintendo Switch 2. And then when it turns out that it wasn't launching with 3D Mario, well, the assumption was that it would probably be coming later on in 2025, the same way that Odyssey did in the first year of the Switch 1's life. But today we've confirmed that just as many people assumed after seeing the first trailer of the new Donkey Kong game, that the team that worked on Mario Odyssey is actually working on Donkey Kong. Now, this is by no means me saying that Donkey Kong is not going to be a good game. It's also not me being mad that there's a Donkey Kong game coming out instead of a Mario game. But as both a massive Mario fan and a massive Donkey Kong fan, this idea that Bananza is the sequel to Odyssey that people have been waiting for is a little insulting and somewhat patronizing, to be honest. There aren't many people that are bothered that there is no 3D Mario game coming out, and it seems like there are people hired by Nintendo just running around the internet telling them, well, you know, there may not be a sequel to Mario Odyssey, but you are getting Bananza, which is basically a sequel to Mario Odyssey. And then when the individual says something along the lines of, oh, you know, Bananza looks cool, but that's not really what I'm buying Nintendo for. I thought I was going to get a 3D Mario game. They're usually scoffed at, insulted, laughed at, and told that they should be happy they're getting a 3D platformer made by the same team that made Odyssey because that's basically exactly what they're looking for. And I don't know, this is another one of those situations where it feels to me like the people that are fans of the Nintendo Switch 2 are not actually true Nintendo fans, because we lifelong Nintendo fans that have loved this franchise for our whole life, loved both franchises for our whole life, would never tell anybody that they should be happy that they're getting Donkey Kong instead of Mario. You could be happy that you're getting Donkey Kong and upset that you're not getting Mario at the same time. It's entirely two separate discussions. Now, part of the reason Donkey Kong is such a large focus at this time is obviously purely for commercial purposes. 3D Mario has always been the focus of Nintendo because 3D Mario is the seller. But now, between theme parks and movies, Donkey Kong has kind of had a resurgence. And Nintendo needs to shove Donkey Kong down as many kids' faces as possible in order to make sure that all of the merchandise is moving and all of the movie sales and theme parks and all that stuff adds up so that people are going to want to buy Donkey Kong. And that's fine. If a game is good and Nintendo makes a good game, I'm happy for people that enjoy the title. But that does not change the fact that Nintendo has waited 8 years since Mario Odyssey and has still given us no sign of a new Mario title. Except, well, it kind of has. Because as we all know, the Nintendo Switch 1's main focus, their main site of success, was drip feeding, slow releases, and remakes and ports. So while I myself, and most people that have a brain, would say that the last true 3D Mario title was Mario Odyssey, those that hate customer rights will go around and say something like, I don't know how you can say Mario Odyssey was the last 3D Mario title. We got Bowser's Fury in 2021. Well, first off, even 2021, we're looking at a release that was something like 4.5 years ago, and that's like the second or third largest gap between two Mario titles as well. And second of all, that game could be 100% completed in 4 hours. It was not a full 3D Mario title, it was a half-baked mini adventure that made everybody assume that that's what the next 3D Mario game was going to look like. That was the whole thing, right? We take Odyssey, we mix it a little bit with Bowser's Fury, and realistically speaking, the next big 3D Mario title that's coming any day now is going to be a combination of both styles. But seemingly, they've just been working on Donkey Kong. So what does that mean for Mario? Have they not been working on it? Because that's entirely possible. They figure they gave people a Mario Wonder game. They did 3D All-Stars, 3D World, and Bowser's Fury. In Nintendo's mind, they've given Mario fans what they want. They've put out all of these 3D Mario titles, and now they don't gotta worry about making another game because they were able to re-release the Wii U game in 2021, and that's close enough to 2025 where they can give it another few years. But again, for people who don't think like Nintendo wants you to think, they view it very simply. The last 3D Mario game was Super Mario Odyssey, and now we are almost 8 years removed from that launch. What's the point in buying a Nintendo console if you're not going to be getting a 3D Mario title for like a decade? That is absurd, but that makes sense. That's modern day Nintendo. That's how they stretch out the console's lifespan. That's what they did with the Switch 1. They stretched out the exact same Mario Kart 8 game for the entire generation. One singular 3D Mario title for the entire generation. Zelda was a fluke, and even then, everyone's like, oh, that's a Switch 2 game, not a Switch 1 game anymore, because it didn't work on Switch 2. But in Nintendo's mind, they're like, what's the point of working our butts off and getting multiple games out? Because if we release a game every 4 or 5 years, they're just going to ask for another one in 4 or 5 years. Instead, we can just slow it all down, let them keep paying monthly subscriptions to play old games, port a few old titles from different consoles every now and then. And then that way, when people look back at the library, they're like, oh man, look how many games were on this console. But during the time of the console's life, they just slowly release games for people to buy. Because if they play everything too big up front, then all of a sudden, people have demands, they have wants, they have needs, and they become upset with Nintendo. But Nintendo keeps dangling that fruit in front of them, drops them a few berries every now and then, and they can effectively stretch out their console's lifespan with the least amount of effort possible, while at the same time maximizing profits, making more throughout the entire Switch 1's lifespan than they ever made before, but still turning around and convincing people apparently that they're so broke they need to overcharge for everything going into the Switch 2. Here's what is happening right now. People are buying a Nintendo Switch 2, and they're saying I might as well buy it because I know eventually I'm going to get the Mario game. I know eventually I'm going to get the Zelda title. I know eventually I'm going to get Animal Crossing. But what people are not realizing is because everybody bought in so early, Nintendo has no pressure on them to push these games out for you in a timely manner. Realistically speaking, ye who bought a Switch 2 waiting for 3D Mario or Zelda or Animal Crossing or Smash Brothers even, at least one of you will only play 1 or 2 games until that game comes out. Oh, and guess what? By then, they're probably going to have their mid-gen upgrade or their light version, which you would have bought for a cheaper price or a better quality product. Nintendo works very slow when they're doing well. And when I say slow, I don't mean that otherwise they would be rushing and they would spit out a poor quality product. They don't spit out poor quality products through a time crunch. They've never done that. They scrapped Prime 4 for goodness sake. When was the last time they were rushed for a major release? Mario Sunshine, maybe? It's not about rushing, it's not about time crunches. It's about increasing the length of time between sales, keeping the charts always going up so that their quarterly reports always show that there's some big title carrying the momentum. Because instead of using the quality and the value of their games, the enjoyment of their titles in order to gain sales, instead of having the confidence in their own product, in how much you're going to enjoy that product, that experience that many believe you can't get anywhere else except with a Nintendo console, they instead look to using hype. They look to using scarcity. They just give you enough to keep you on your toes, lingering, and waiting for the next old and outdated port to just eat up so that you can feel like they're still feeding you something. All the while, you're buying more accessories, you're buying more games that you don't even really want to play that much, you're paying a monthly subscription for something that is just not worth the price that they're asking, even if it's cheaper. Nintendo isn't going to release their 3D Mario title now, because right now they know that so many new people are going to get a Nintendo Switch 2, and they're going to end up buying Mario Odyssey because it's the only 3D Mario title, and they've given it that 4K patch. They know that there's going to be so many people out there that never experienced Mario 3D World, and so they're going to buy the Switch 2, and they're going to be like, well, I need a 3D Mario title to play multiplayer. Here's what I'm going to buy. And I would not be surprised if both of those games end up getting Switch 2 editions in the next year. For now, it's Zelda plus just updates for the 3D Mario games. Next, it's going to be something as simple as Bowser's Fury as an upgrade pack. Probably something even smaller scale than Bowser's Fury. And then before you know it, it's going to be like 15 years since the last 3D Mario title, and everyone's going to be scratching their head wondering, how did we let Nintendo go this long without giving us a 3D Mario? Well, we did so by agreeing to fall into their release schedule. Because you know how it goes. If they get desperate, if the Switch 2 ends up tanking after this opening month, that's when they pull the lever and all of a sudden all of these massive games that they're working on get announced and suddenly they get pushed up on the list and when they're coming out. But as long as the Switch 2 continues to sell as well as it did in the first weekend, expect long wait times between all of your favorite franchises. They have no rush, and they're going to milk all of these games for as long as they possibly can, because when they look back at the Switch 2 after its life is done, they want to see even less effort put into the titles and the new games that were made than they did in the previous generation, specifically from a quantity perspective, which was already drastically less effort that was put into new first-party games than what had came before. If Nintendo fans are lucky, they actually get a Direct sometime in July, and during that Direct, a 3D Mario game is announced. If they're lucky, maybe it gets announced in the September Direct. If they're lucky, there's even a Direct at all from now until the end of the year. But until that happens, there is no sign of anything outside of what we already know. And what's funny is, as you surf through the internets and look through the forums, you'll notice many anti-customer satisfaction people talking about how they already feel spoiled as Switch 2 owners based off of what's already come out and what's coming out from now through the end of the year. And as long as those fans are leading the charge, it's just gonna stretch out these releases even more. So good luck with that. Anyway, thank you guys for listening, and I will catch you on the next one.